So maybe a question for you, Brian, to start with. I don't know if you've had a look at in-car data, or are you taking in-car data now, or are you exploring this? Or
no, in-car data is not something that we are using for our remarketing tools at this point.
Yeah. Okay. What we know that the integration of all of this data throughout the whole process is key. Sebastian, in the processes you have developed, how can you integrate data from different type of companies? Because we've been talking about this at the start, that it has become much more complex, that you basically need good systems to integrate actors. So I would like to come back that you can give your view on that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there are different technologies now as the world moves on now, Johan, and it has thankfully become much easier to share data with cloud setups nowadays. It is all much more modernized. Now, am I the right one to give you the tech details of how it can work? I can bring in a couple of our colleagues, the specialists on it. I think what is really become transparent is that being able to ingest data from various platforms, much as we do on the Manheim Express side of things, where we take specification data from DAT, we take pricing data from Automotive, we take data from our artificial intelligence supplier, and we add our own data. I think that's where the key for success lies. And having a modern microservice-driven platform that can actually react and adapt to these ever-changing needs is absolutely crucial. And there are companies emerging now that are, what we talked about, the integrating the in-car data. It's on the horizon. It's going to come. It's a matter of, I think, 1 or 2 years before we will see tangible data coming in here as well.
Now, we've been a few times in remarketing, we have talked about data or sourcing additional data to enhance the vehicle specifications, like you do with the DAT. Sometimes they come from Autovista or other type of companies. In cars to click, Brian, do you need to enhance the data you receive to basically analyze the specification pricing? Do you take additional data in?
Yeah, this is something that has been and still is an ongoing process of making sure that when we compare, because what we do is we try to find out where we can get the best price for a vehicle in different countries, so we match supply and demand. And of course, to compare vehicles, you need to be sure that you're comparing apple with apple and not apple with pears, right? And I think that is like the biggest issue that has been on the market discussion since this started, right? What we did is that we simply stopped doing. We talked about this before about the trim thing. We simply stopped looking at the traditional way of looking at equipment and how we were pricing, checking the prices on the cars, because the traditional way of putting together the packages on vehicles are gone. Even to the point that we look into DAT reports and VIN lookups, different VIN, where they are wrong, because the information from the manufacturer is not really being updated right now. So this is really, really complex. Example, we have a report saying that a vehicle that's been built for Portugal, specifically an Audi Q5 built for Portugal, has as a standard heated seats. We received that those vehicles for sale, and the information is it does not have heated seats. We spent time talking back and forward, looking, say, but our system tells us that it has heated seats. And the seller says, no, we took it out. But on the VIN number, when the VIN look up, it still says has heated seats, right? So we have to be very, very careful about what we're doing, because at the end of the day, if you sell something to someone, if you are in Sweden and you buy an Audi Q5 with heated seats and you come without heated seats, you don't want it. And then we're not even into the situation where we say, oh, we'll give you a little discount because there was a scratch on the car. That is one thing, right? We're talking about equipment that has value, and to the point where someone will say, I don't want the car, send it back to Portugal again. So yes, we do. And we try to do whatever we can with different catalogs, our own way of looking into this. The most exciting part here now is actually where the AI identifies things on photos. And Sebastian showed something before about showing damages. And this is coming faster than we would think, that the AI can see things on the photos. And that includes that looking at the buttons in the dashboard. Does this one really have this? And say yes or no to things like it. And this is where we don't do it today. We are working on it. So I'm not saying we have it, don't worry. It's just that this is where we're going. And I think that we're doing as much as we can to enhance the data we get. Even to one thing we have in one tool we have, called Custom View for the car dealers, is actually showing them when they forget to put equipment online. So that's the other way of looking at it. So yes, this is a long answer to your short question. We do everything we can to enhance the data. We need to.
Okay. Now you're talking about dealers and everything. Maybe a question for Luis Maria. Have you seen in any, because of course you do a lot of remarketing consulting projects with Pursuit. Have you seen the hunger or the eagerness to have a more data-driven approach at dealers or dealer groups or NSCs? Have you seen this evolving, or what do you believe is the status?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially in the last. I mean, the industry has become very, very data-driven, maybe even too much sometimes. So, I mean, of course, data is super important. I mean, we talk about in-car data. We talk about market data that we could be retrieving out of the market. We could be talking about different sources, and of course, this data can only support our business. So it's clear that this is something that we need. But if we talk, for example, about decision or channel decision, as we wanted to, how this in terms of channel decision. Well, on the one hand, if I look at the external data and can definitely use the data to make an decision for my cars, of course, because I will recognize when they are slow sellers, they are quick sellers, or the retail customer will be willing to pay more than the B2B, for example, so that data is useful. Maybe in-car data, from that perspective, will not help me to have to take a decision, but will help me to take the decision a little bit earlier, because I will get information a little bit in advance, so I know what's going on with my car, and then I can put it against my criteria in terms of channel decision. And so data is super important, but what I think is very important as well, and I tell also to my customers, that data can only support your strategic decisions and not vice versa. And what I mean by that is that there is no such as a correct channel decision, for example, per se. I mean, this channel decision will be correct according to your strategy, and we don't have all the same strategy. I mean, a car dealer will have one strategy with maybe committed with the brand, and OEM will have another strategy. And of course, I need to define the criteria for the data that will support my decision making. But all of these data is playing a role there. But for data is there, it's true. But we have to know how to use it, and this is sometimes the highest challenge. I mean, to organize it and to use it in our benefit.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe Sebastian, with your experience from the OEM days, when you were very young, let's call it like that. Do you believe that there is something like a used car strategy at most of the dealers? Because indeed you can make a decision based on data, but a decision versus what? What do you want to be in a used car world? I think we still don't see that too often at NSCs or at dealers. What's your view?
Well, I think first of all, it would be unfair for me to give a comment on like a lot of the people that are our customers today. But I think it's fair to say that there are different stages of these kind of strategies. And you know what, Johan, these things are changing right now very rapidly. There are different ways, depending on what is your future network model. Are you working with agents? Are you working direct sales? Now, we talked before about CarNext and other market contenders that are going direct with their business. There's obviously a different setup here. What I think what is a common seen, or something that we have seen now with the pandemic happening, is that car dealers have actually changed their behavior when it comes to what they trade away. So there we've seen clearly a trend to sell more cars to end consumers because of the shortage that we're seeing in the market with semiconductors and production issues right now. That is clearly there, and that drives a shortage in the wholesale markets, but also then the subsequent shortage on the retail markets, which then ultimately drives back residual values and the increase of residual values, which coming back to the data question and understanding data. I think in terms of the acquisition strategies, it has never been more pivotal for a dealer to understand the market pricing on a daily basis right now, because prices over the last 3 to 4 months have skyrocketed because of that change of market. And it's something that I think our industry has not been exposed for a long time. The financial crisis saw the opposite effect, right? It saw severe drops 10 years ago. Then we've seen a good time, and I think a very stable time. Now we're seeing the diametral opposite of it, and coming out with strategies, whether you are a dealer, an OEM, or an NSC. From my current position, I would say there's an awful lot going on right now, and there's a lot of smart people out there with a lot of different approaches. The one clear answer is not one size fits all, and depending on what is your wider strategy, your used car strategy needs to follow, or vice versa.
Yeah, well, you were talking about sourcing almost, because of course I agree that anyone can sell almost any car. But Brian, have you seen an increase of request of, for example, your type of services to support sourcing, or what has happened in this last, let's say, half a year then?
Yeah. Well, the last half year has turned to the better, I would say, right, for everybody. Markets has opened up again, and suddenly sourcing becomes a real key issue for everybody. Everybody is screaming for cars, but at the end of the day, it's not enough just to buy cars. You need to buy the right cars still. If you are in Denmark, you need to be sure that you buy cars that are actually sellable in Denmark, and it's very easy to make the mistake when you think that, oh, there's a shortage of cars. Let's buy cars. We just buy cars, and the prices go up. We hear that. So what we see now is that more and more of our car dealers, the buying cars, well, the sellers, they're looking at our geo-pricing tool and our business case models to understand where they should sell their vehicles for the best price. The same way is that our buyers, the car dealers, they ask for the same kind of access to, can we see what is fast moving in my market right now? And then what they do is they make a wish list and say, this is what I would like to buy within the next 15, 30, 45, 60 days. So they're really starting to plan ahead. And it's like a supermarket. You don't buy 1,000 liters of milk if you sell 100 a day, right? You buy 200 or 300, so you have for the next 2 or 3 days as a maximum, right? It's the same way of thinking that comes into the buyers and the dealers now. They understand that they have data available, especially the one that we have been working with. So they say, hey, with the data, can we plan my stock? We know that I'll probably sell 15 of those cars within the next 13 days. So I want to order 15 now to get them, so I don't end up with zero. I don't want to order when it's zero. So I think this is something that has changed a lot, and I'm really fascinated about how some dealers have been able to completely change their mindset about, it's not just about buying a few cars, it's really about planning, sourcing, and understanding how much milk you need every day.
So they're a bit more looking basically in the future and trying to plan sourcing, not really go from just the vehicles they have or buy some. Have you seen maybe some, or do you think that quite some used car traders or dealers have lost additional margin because they were still selling almost too cheap in this life where everything has become basically more expensive?
Yeah, just like every day we have examples where one of our sellers comes to us and say, we have this vehicle, we would like to sell it, where can we sell it? And we show, like I showed in my presentation, we make a business case of the vehicles they have, and in more than half of the cases, I would say we find a market that, oh, this should not be sold where it's located. Like if you get a list of cars from Spain that is on the way back, then more than half of those should not, or maybe all of them should not be sold in Spain, and they will get a higher price in other countries. What is happening? What I didn't say before. What is happening now that has changed a lot is we have right now an order book and orders coming for cars that will be delivered the next 30, 60, and even 90 days out in the future that we have already sold and bought today. This is something that has changed a lot for us. Before we would say we sold more or less all our cars and they would be ready within the next week or so. We do a lot of pre-selling, but we would say pre-selling ready within the next 2 or 3 weeks. That was normal before. Now we have orders that like sold coming back in 3 months, sold today, and the dealers predict the price that they will have in 3 months on those vehicles. This has changed a lot. And the order book we have now on already sold cars for the next few months is huge. It's amazing the way it has changed.
Yeah, it's enormous how in the last year actually a lot of things have changed, and a lot of people in this industry has enormously adapted to this new way of working. Maybe just a final question for Sebastian, and maybe it goes back to some of the other elements that we have seen today. We have seen, and you have also talked about this, that the defleeting journey has become completely different with subscription models that are coming. Do you see it possible that used car lease could easily be integrated with an additional intake inspection almost, or is this going to be quite challenging from a cost perspective to do this?
I think it's definitely going to be something. I mean, if you look at the current status, and we just also discussed about the shortage, I think there are actually real use cases out there already happening, where consumers cannot get their cars on time for their replacement cars from a lease perspective, and there's going to be that used car, that second life. I think as we discussed about more shared mobility and quicker changes, it will almost become common practice, and it's here to stay. It's all about using the consistent data and building up probably a portfolio of data. I think that's where really it becomes interesting, and probably as Brian said before about using the right technology that can then help you comparing status to status to status. If you think about rental car companies do already in a lot of airport stations have in and out checks of the cars every time they go in and out. I think we will see this more commonplace. We'll see that at dealerships. We'll see that at agent points. We'll see that at handover points. Maybe we'll see it at the corner of a street one day, right? Maybe there'll be possibilities of drive-through kind of checkpoints for consumers. So yeah, definitely here to stay, and definitely going to be there as a product long term.
Okay, thanks. Now we've come, unfortunately, to the end of this session.